Welcome back to another episode of Humanhood 101's Parental Confessions. Today we have a wonderful, amazing parental set of guests today. We have a couple, it's actually our first couple that we've ever had on the show. Introducing to you the wonderful Hassani and Nikki Palacio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm so grateful to have you both here. Both of these wonderful human beings, they're activists in the community. They are professionals in their own realm. I'm gonna let them talk about that for a few ticks. And most importantly, they are both parents, and that's why we have them here today. Why don't you just give the people a little information about yourself and what you guys do?
Go ahead, honey. You can go first.
Well, as mentioned, I'm Hassani Palacio. Professionally, I am a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for 33 years now. I work for the state of Nevada in adult mental health. I've been there for 17 years, and obviously that's how I make my living, and I'm able to maintain my household. But my passion lies in African drum and dance, where I am a African drum instructor at the West Las Vegas Arts Center, and I've been doing that for the past 25 years. Started an African drum and dance company called Olabisi, and we do drum and dance. Anybody needs some African drum and dance for any type of activity, they give us a call, and if we feel like doing it, we'll show up.
That's right. And we will make sure we have that information for you all at the end of the podcast, so you can get in touch with Brother Hassani, because he is an amazing instructor and an even more amazing drum master. Thank you.
No,
brother.
I'm not going to let you get away with that one.
Okay.
In that I am not a master. I haven't studied under any master teachers, and that's how you get your credentials as a master, is to be taught by a master. I am basically self-taught, and I'm constantly learning and growing in the drum, so I'm definitely not a master.
You see, we got the right parents on here today. We got them on here today. Thank you, brother, for the correction. Sister Nikki.
So, as he said, my name is Nicole, or Nikki Palacio. Professionally, I work for Clark County at the District Attorney's Office as a victim witness advocate. And on my own time, or what I love to do, is teach West African dance.
Yeah.
So I'm an instructor at the West African Dance, West Las Vegas Arts Center. And I've been teaching there for, maybe
You just started yesterday.
whatever. Few years, I would say. I'm also a mentor for the Young Girls Rite of Passage that we host every year at the West Las Vegas Arts Center. And shoot, I'm a mother, I'm an auntie, so to everyone.
So the reason why I selected you two to do this podcast, because not only are you parents, but you also parent the community. And one of the things we have to start practicing is village concepts, community concepts, and we don't have enough of that. So I know what y'all got to come to bring to the show today is going to be hot. So let's just get right into it. Okay, let's start. So basic questions first, all right? Both of you are parents, and you have a unique situation because y'all have a blended family.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Let's talk about that real quick. How many children do you have combined and separated?
Combined, we have 3.
Mm-hmm.
2 are my biological children, and then he has 1 biological.
And how long have you both been parents to your biological children?
Go ahead.
My child is 20. She'll be 21 in February.
And my son will be 22 in November, and then my daughter will be 19 in December.
So they basically got adults, y'all.
Yeah, grown folk.
Yeah, they got grown folks. So these are seasoned parents that we talking to today, okay? So we're about to get some seasoned information, y'all, all right? So first question, right? Did you have frustrations with your children? Whoever wants to go first and talk about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What did that look like for you? Give me one of the most frustrating situations you've had.
The most frustrating, I would say, I would have, and it came from my son. I was a single parent. So at the time, raised both of my children, I should say. Their father was in their life, but they stayed in my home.
So you were the primary
I was
parent.
the primary, yes. I should say that. The most frustration was just not listening. You know, you can tell them one thing and it goes through one ear, out the other. So I would say listening was a real big issue, especially for my son.
And how did you ever come to master that situation?
As he got older, he started listening more.
Yeah.
He'll be 22, but there's some things that he still don't listen to.
Yeah.
But the things that he should have listened to as an adolescent and as he got older, he was doing, especially as far as going to school, making sure that he was doing his homework. Those things he got better at, but
Okay.
It was a struggle.
So communication for the most part. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
before we get to the second part, I let Hassani answer that too. If you can share any of your most intense frustrations that you've had.
As I sit here and I reflect, I can't think of any frustrations with my child, quite frankly. Well, one of the issues as she got older was this. I tried to lay this groundwork where she could feel comfortable to come talk to me about anything at any time. But for whatever reason, she didn't feel that way. And she just thought I was going to approach situations in a completely different way than reality would suggest. And in her own head, she thought her dad was going to be this old grump and come down hard on her if she had any kind of issues. But then one day she decided to come and sit down and talk to me, and I surprised her because I had already prepped myself. Whatever you have to discuss, we're going to discuss. I'm going to listen, and I'm going to try to learn advice. And so she was shocked by my response, but I wasn't shocked because I knew this is how I was going to respond to my child when she came to me.
Yeah.
And so that was, if I have to point to a frustration, it would be that she didn't feel comfortable enough to come talk to me, despite the fact that for years I have been prepping her. When you get ready, you want to talk to your dad, you come talk to me, I'm open, I'm ready to listen.
Okay.
I think I had something to do with that.
Had something to do with what? Who was this lady?
No, I'm just saying because like he said, she was afraid to talk to him.
Yeah.
And there will be occasions where she would come to me and say, hey, can you help me talk to my dad, or can we sit down together? I remember the first conversation we had. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm going to be your best advocate. I'm here for you. No matter what he say, I'm here for you. So I think she started opening up more, in my eyes, to me, opening up more to you and coming to you more, and not, saying, hey, can you, or can you mention this to dad? And, I wouldn't have to be the
go-between.
Yeah, exactly.
So communication seems like the mode for this, for the both of you, somewhere, somehow. So let's talk about that. How did you, Nicole, master that experience? Or did you master it? Are you still mastering it?
I'm still mastering it.
What are you doing to master this experience, this communication? Because listening, most of my tribe members and my clients, that's what they I can't get my kid to listen. That's what they say to me. I can't get my kid to listen. And you know what I say to them? How often and how much are you listening to your kid?
Exactly.
But please, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I was just saying, no, I'm still learning because my communication wasn't the best as well. And I had to recognize that, especially in even just dealing with our relationship. I would bottle up. I would go in. I would not talk. I wouldn't have those hard conversations. But he's helped me a lot with having those hard conversations. It's still a struggle for me. But I think also that's where they get it from. We can talk about silly stuff. We can talk about whatever. But when it came to having difficult conversations. That was hard for me.
What's a difficult conversation?
I guess one would be, explaining to them the relationship I had with their father. That would be a difficult conversation to have. And I'm trying to think. There's a bunch more, I'm sure, but I can't think of it right now. But that definitely was one, like the relationship with their father, why I left their father, or why I didn't get along with their father, why they have to be with me, those.
So what tactics or what strategies did you use to master this? Like, what did you use to?
I find that when I have to have difficult conversations sometimes with them, not necessarily with Hassani, but I approach it in a fun, kind of silly way, because it just helps me make lighter of the situation before we get into what we actually need to talk about. So I found that, and they were younger too, I found that just approaching it in a silly, kind of playful way and then getting serious helped to relay the message to them so that they could listen and understand.
I like that tactic. Go in soft.
Yes, because when you go in like rough and it doesn't seem like it doesn't work for me, because I know how I want to be approached. And being young, you already kind of scared of your parents, especially if you got in trouble for something. So it's like when you approach it a little lighter, they're not so much afraid to listen and do what you need to do.
Okay. And Hassani, how about how you mastered or are still mastering your experience in regards to communication with your offspring? You talked about that, the difficulty and frustration that you had in regards to her not coming to you.
I grew up old school. That is, my parents were of the thought that children should be seen and not heard. And so we grew up in a household where we couldn't really say much and share. And my parents were the example of the type of adult husband, man, father I didn't want to be. And so I think it's fair to say most people, when they coming up, when I get older, and if I have kids, I'm not gonna do that. I ain't gonna treat them the way my parents. You say that to yourself. But then when you get to be an adult and you have children, you find that you are your parents. You find that you are doing the exact same thing that your parents did, despite the fact that you kept telling yourself, I would never do this. This is true for Hassani as well. I said the same thing. The difference, however, is this. I was determined to be more than just words. For it to be just more, I had to manifest itself in reality. And so, for an example, I never saw my parents in their 47 years of marriage before my father passed hug and kiss. So I knew that ain't normal. Parents hugging, kissing, enjoying, laugh, talking, have a good time together. So I had to train myself when I got with my first wife, who God rest her soul, passed, to hug and kiss her and say good morning and I love you. And make that my habit. Make it my habit. So now that I am remarried, it is my habit with her. We laugh and joke. We laugh about something every day. And I tell her I love her. She tells me she loves me every day. We talk, we sit down, we hug, we chat every day. And I had to work at it to be that type of person. So to get back to the communication thing, I had to work to get out of the shell, because I've always been, from the time I was little, my mother would tell me that I would just be one of them little kids to go to a little party and I would just observe. Sit in the corner and just watch everybody else having a good time. Wouldn't participate necessarily, because I guess that just wasn't my nature. And so that now that I'm older, I try to get involved and engaged. And also with talking and opening up myself and just exposing myself verbally. People see me and they make assumptions about me. But it's only when I start talking to them, they he's not that bad.
Right.
He's not that hard. He's pretty soft. He's a pretty kind, gentle dude.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So I make it a point to talk. And I did the same thing with my child coming up. We would talk and laugh and joke all the time. Because I didn't see that coming up. And I wanted a different experience for my child and for me. Now that I'm an adult and a parent, I wanted a different experience for me as well. So it was somewhat selfish. But I also wanted my child to understand that your parent can be your friend, disciplinarian, but can also be your friend, your confidant when you need them to be. But you have to establish that relationship early in life so that when that child becomes an adult, they see you as not only their parent, but their friend as well.
That's right.
You see? And so that's what I've been working on with my child. And I've been, thank goodness, somewhat successful in that she's a decent human being, and that she's on the road to being, self-sufficient, independent, not a burden on society. She's not doing drugs. She's never been in jail, none of that stuff. So I'm thankful for that. And we just constantly work on just talking. She opens up to me much more now. Any little thing she got going on, she comes to me and we talk.
She's like, that's me. She's like, I did that. She's like, that's all me.
Who's this?
Right.
Shoot.
That's awesome.
We have a decent relationship.
Beautiful. No, that's beautiful. I mean, you really went into the next question. The next question was, and this gets touchy for a lot of people, and it's going to be touchy for me when I finally do the interview with my parent. But the next question was, how much does how you were parented affect how you parent your child? And you just spoke a lot about that.
Yeah, but as I said, there were a lot of things that my parents did and didn't do that we didn't appreciate. You know what I mean? And so I just said, there's certain things I'm just simply not going to do. And it's a struggle to try to manifest that, because you have to put in the work. You can't just talk about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't just talk. You talk it all. You can talk about it all day long. Next thing you know, you're your parent.
Right. So you knew and felt some natural reactions and natural reflexes that were picked up from how you were parented.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there were certain things, like I said, there were certain things that I just knew that I did not want to be part of my parenting style if I were to become a parent. I knew this instinctively, and so I had to work at it. You couldn't just talk about it. You have to work at it to be different than the example that you had.
Give me one principle when you say work. Give me one thing you did to work, because this is a confession that a lot of parents don't make.
Now
they don't talk about how they were parented.
One of the things, like I said, was hugging and kissing my woman. The old school thought, and being my father, I'm doing my job because I pay the rent, I pay the mortgage, and there's food in the refrigerator, and there's clothes on everybody's back. What else do I need to do? I'm handling my responsibility as a man in the household. What else do you need? But that's the old school mentality of a man. And the woman of today wants, you can't do all of that, but sit down and hold my hand and talk to me. Or give me a hug. Ask me how my day was.
Yeah.
Rub my shoulders. You know what I mean? Make me a plate every once in a while.
Right.
That type of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And so, because I grew up in that old school way, but growing up in a new school era where things are different now, I had to learn how to incorporate the things that I appreciated coming up and the things that I didn't, and incorporate some of the new stuff. And so that's what I've been doing in my 55 years on the planet, trying to figure out the best of both worlds. Because I'm still old school.
Yeah.
I'm still old school.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I also have to appreciate the fact that we've got a different generation of kids, and you have to approach them a little bit differently than our parents and our grandparents approached their children.
Yeah. And it seems like if you're finding that balance, because sometimes we like to look at old school, quote unquote, and think that that's always the right way of doing things. And that's not what you're saying. That's not necessarily true. When you talk about old school, you need to go back into ancient ways and kind of really dig into some principles and some traditions that helped us keep family, keep parenting, keep community, keep things growing the right way.
And I'll share this too.
Please.
We're talking about the putting in the work to be
Yes,
different.
yes.
With my child. Over the years, every so often, I'll just put her aside and I'll tell her, I'm going to apologize to you today because I know some years from now, you're not going to appreciate some of the things that I'm doing. But please know that it's not done out of malice. It's done out of good intention. But even so, when you get older, you're going to reflect back on daddy and be like, I didn't like how you did this. I didn't like how you did that. And so I would just apologize, and she'd be confused by that because what are you talking about, Daddy?
Right.
You're doing fine, by as far as I know. You know what I mean? As far as I know, my daddy's taking care of business. But I also understand that despite the fact that I'm doing the best that I know, she may interpret it somewhat differently.
Yeah.
And so I would every so often over the years just apologize to her for my parenting because there's one of these days you're gonna reflect on your daddy and be not like something that I did. So I'm apologizing now.
I'm gonna apologize in advance.
I'm apologizing now.
Wow.
Because I know I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be something that she interprets in her life the way that I approach something that she did not like. And I have no clue because I'm not coming at it from some malicious point of view.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And she's receiving it from
however she's receiving it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
However she's receiving it. So every so often over the years, I pull her to the side and say, I'm apologizing to you for the way that I'm raising you because there's going to be something you don't like about the way.
Ooh. Man. Yeah, I mean, that's what a tactic. Not a tactic, but what a strategy and what a principle. You know, I'm gonna apologize to you because in 5 years you ain't gonna like how I say what I'm gonna say. And I think that's just.
Or even if that, or just like say I'm just going about my regular business.
Yeah.
And not knowing how she's interpreting it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just apologizing to you because I don't know how you receiving the something that I'm trying to do for you.
Yeah.
And years from now, when you get older and you reflect, you might look at it completely different than how I thought it was being received.
Well, you get Humanhood 101 kudos from me because the fact that you can apologize as a parent, most parents don't do that. And you apologize in advance. Like I'm gonna just get my apology account up real quick. Let me just get it up. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Sister Nicole.
Yes.
Same thing with you. Same question, if you may. How do you see, if you see, how you were parented affecting the way you parent your children?
Well, I want to start by saying my mom was also the primary caregiver or parent, however you want to put it.
Right.
She raised 3 daughters on her own. Both my sisters and I's fathers were not there. And my mom worked a lot, sometimes 2, 3 jobs. So she was rarely home. So I was that latchkey kid, kindergarten. I was going home. I was doing pretty much whatever I wanted to do, sleeping, whatever. So there was not a lot of communication with my mom growing up. And I see that with my children too, my son and my daughter, when I was raising them when they were younger. We didn't do a whole lot of, again, deep communication. I didn't come to them and be like, I'm gonna apologize in advance.
Right.
I'm gonna do all this, I'm gonna do all that. I was just trying to stay afloat and trying to care for my 2 children. And I found that I was also kind of doing the same thing my mother was doing, not actually teaching them how to grow up, like he, for instance, taught Tawani how to do the checkbook and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Finances, total big one.
Mm-hmm.
My mom never taught us about that.
Yeah, I think most of our parents didn't
Never,
teach us that.
right?
Yeah.
And that's something that I didn't teach my children because I'm just trying to keep us afloat.
Right.
I'm going to work. I'm coming home. I'm making sure that you do your homework.
Right.
You may do it and not hand it in, but that was my primary thing. Make sure you do your homework. You're fed. You're loved. Whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So I see that stemmed from my childhood too, just not having that communication.
Yeah. And that was the initial thing, is communication.
Yeah.
So when that's again, that's what most parents, when they come to me, that's what we talking about. Talking about talking
Exactly.
and listening.
And Hassani and I have that age difference, right? So when he said he's old school, I'm new school. I'm new school.
Old school,
we
new
approach
school.
parenting way different, and it was a struggle, I think, in the beginning for us, because we obviously have a blended family. So now he's parenting my son, my daughter, and he gets upset because they don't have the same principles as his daughter. So it's a different dynamic.
How does that work? Yeah, because y'all still kind of mastering that, or because I know the children are not children anymore.
No, yeah, we're still
wrong, but they still come to you for parenting, so because they're still in that parenting age where they still need some guidance.
Yes, they still do. I don't know if Hassani sees it as much, but like my son he'll text me, he'll still ask me for advice, and he's gotten more comfortable, I believe, asking Hassani for advice and talking to him, which I was really proud that he even approaches Hassani, because my husband, I'm gonna just tell you right now, he could be scary.
Oh, I know.
He could
I
be
know.
scary.
Listen, I'll let the cat out the bag. Hassani is my drum teacher. I started drumming because of him and another brother. And every time I play anything in front of Hassani, I'm nervous. And he's not doing anything to make me nervous. It's just that's his energy. You don't want to disappoint this brother,
Right?
You don't want to. You want to get praise from him. You don't want to get the other thing.
Exactly.
He gonna give you the other thing anyway. But the other thing makes you stronger. It makes you better. It makes you focus more. So it all works out. So it's all good. I had to let that out there so that people know that I've received some parenting from Brother Hassani too, but he ain't never apologized for me.
I do want to say too, brother, we still kind of struggle with my daughter and the communication between him and my daughter.
Okay.
And I like to think it's because she's like me. You have to approach it in a conversation in a light way.
Yeah.
And then obviously get into the deep stuff. But we're working on it. It's gotten better to me. What you think, honey?
Well, Royce is better now. She's grown, graduated high school, got a job, taking care of business for the most part.
Yeah. But sometimes you don't, you still see that, I don't want to say animosity, but it's like, you're not my father, you're not my dad, you're not my parent, why are you telling? But I think she appreciates the knowledge that he brings, and the advice that he gives.
We might come back to that. We might, because that's an interesting thing, especially with blended families. There's a whole nother realm to dealing with that, So next question. All right, the questions haven't been too hard, have they? Y'all been rolling.
No,
y'all been flowing. Y'all been good. All right. So biggest fear that you have or had, because some of us eliminate our fears as we grow, but some of us still face them. Biggest parenting fear?
Go ahead.
My biggest fear stems from the loss of my late wife. And my fear was that I would die and not be able to see my child grow. That was my biggest fear for the longest time. But now that I'm older, she's almost 21, and that I'm not too much concerned about that because now she's grown and she can fend for herself. But that was my biggest fear, that I would pass as well and then leave my child, and then her life would be shattered because she would have lost two parents. And how would she manage? I mean, she'd have support, sure, but to lose both your parents, that would be just horrific. And so that, if I'm going to be honest, that was my biggest fear when she was growing.
That's a fear for sure.
I would say I still have this fear right now. My biggest fear is that my two biological children, and even 420, won't grow up to fulfill whatever their dream is or whatever their destiny is, or they just, how can I put it? They're so scared to go after what they want that they are just, they don't see it and they give up on it. Because too many of us just give up on our dreams, even though they're maybe far-fetched.
Right.
We let too many people tell us that we can't do it.
Yeah.
So I just want them to be successful, no matter what they do, no matter how much they change in life. I want them to be successful, and I want them to be safe. And of course, death is the number one. I don't ever want to see my children, all three of them, I don't ever want to see them go before I do. So that's like the number one.
Y'all getting touchy. That's a hard one, But as a parent, I think that's one of my things, is just not being around for my child. That's a pretty spooky one for sure. So, all right, this might be a tough question. What is the craziest thing you've ever done as a parent? You might not have told anybody about it. The craziest thing you've done as a parent. I had somebody tell me that they put their car seat on top of the car and drove off with the baby on top of it.
Oh, wow.
For a whole block.
Oh.
And remarkably, the baby didn't fall off the car. There were some angels involved with that.
Yes, indeed.
But and they told me they never told anybody, because they were ashamed, and they let it out on the show, and they talked about it. But what do you guys got?
The craziest thing I've done.
Craziest confession. Dig deep.
Shoot. Well, kind of something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
But I used to work for a bank.
Okay.
And I had to take Nyla to not kindergarten, daycare in the morning. Well, one day she was asleep in the back seat. And I don't know, I must have just been super tired. And I drove all the way to work. I didn't even notice she was in the back seat until I just happened to, look for whatever reason. Someone must have just told me, look, and she was knocked out in the back seat. So that could have been terrible because it was hot outside too.
Right. You just got out the car, left her, and then went to the office.
And forgot about her. That could have been a disaster.
Tragic. Yeah.
Yes.
Another thing that I actually still do it to this day because I'm just silly.
Okay.
But my kids will always come in my room, and I'd be like, you have your space. This is my time now. Leave me alone.
Right.
So I used to have this robe, and it was full of static. Like, if you pull on it or whatever, you can see the blue light.
Of course, yeah.
So whenever you used to come in my room, I would throw it on them, right? And then I would yank it away, because then you see and I would just touch them real quick. And the sparks would just fly, but it got in my room. So,
wow.
Is that abusive? I don't know.
I think it's like,
is that abuse?
It's constructive manipulation. I think we call it that.
But listen, it got in my room. So I don't know if you would call that weird, strange, or just terrible.
That's interesting.
To do to
I've
your
never
kid.
heard anything like that before. Listen, I've heard some things. So
yeah.
No,
I
that's
still
awesome.
give them a little every now and then.
What you got?
I don't know that I haven't done anything crazy necessarily. Just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just a little fun and stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Like stuff I've seen on TV, on the movies, what have you. Like at my old house, I used to, me and the one, we used to hide all over the place, under beds, under whatever.
Yeah.
Or I would hide her in the closet and put her up in the cabinet and just close the door. And when her mama looking for her, I'm like, oh, you don't know where she at? And then all the while, I got her hidden somewhere. She asked me where the bed. I said, I thought you had her. But anyway,
Yeah.
we just go hide anywhere, having fun. I used to would sit her on my shoulder and put a shirt on her neck and then take a picture so it looked like big body with a little head.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
You still hide though.
So we just do
He's
little
still
stupid
there.
stuff.
Wow. You guys have been awesome. I really appreciate y'all coming to the show and sharing your experiences and sharing your confessions and also sharing some of the approaches you've used to continue mastering your parenting experiences, because I don't think you can ever, you know, listening to what Brother Sani's saying about him, that he's not a master, even though you're the master in our community. You're the master of our village. You're the Bible. So that's what we give you as the people, you know, that are under you. But mastery doesn't stop. It's nonstop. It's never ending, you know. And I always say we're not, you know, perfect parents. We're parents that are perfecting our parenting, you know. We're not great parents. We're growing parents. So.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, there are instruction manuals for any number of things.
Mm-hmm.
There's never been an instruction manual on the planet for parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's a trial and error, you learn as you go thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
It's
right.
trial and error.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So what works for you as a parent may not work for another dude or young lady who's trying to be a parent.
Right.
Because it's trial and error. What's my personality? Was that going to work for me? You know what I mean?
That's
Like
right.
I said, there's no manual for that.
Yeah.
There's a manual on how to fix this. There's a manual on how to drive. There's a manual on how to do this.
Yeah.
But there's no manual for being a parent.
Still learning.
And so because that's the case, and because we are imperfect human beings, we have to continue to learn and grow and develop.
That's right. And that's why my new book, Father and Daughters 101, is an actual self-evolving parenting manual. And what happens is you got to do the work and put stuff in there yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're reading what to do. You're
Right.
telling yourself who you are so you can know what to do. So it's like a mirror for your parenting. So y'all can go ahead and click the link in the bio and find that. It will be there in my website. So we are concluding this episode, this wonderful episode. I can't wait to have y'all back. I can't wait to have y'all back with your children. We're going to have them
Oh my
with their
gosh.
children. That's going to be a party. It's going to be it's going to be a really nice episode, and we'll keep you guys abreast to when that happens. But to end, we like to do a parenting principle at the end of every episode. And the energy that I'm feeling is we need to focus on the art of listening to our children.
Yes.
I think that would help if we find ways to listen better to our children. I know I practice every day. I'm listening to what you two expressed. And I think listening would be a beautiful asset to parenting and continuous parenting experiences. So, but thank you both again. You can find both of them at the West Las Vegas Arts Center. Classes are every 6 Saturdays. From drum class starts at 9:30 to 10:30. Children's dance class starts at 10:30 to 11:30, and the adults West African dance class starts at 12 p.m. at the West Las Vegas Arts Center. There's also rites of passage programming. There's also other events. We do stuff all year, y'all. So y'all just gotta these two are definitely one of the major king and queens of the community. So whenever you see them on the street, whenever you go into their social media, whatever you do, give them some love, ask them some questions. They have solutions, they have information, and let's continue to do whatever we can to allow the community to strive and grow. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
And thank you all for listening to Humanhood 101's Parental Confessions. Till next time, peace.